Here's where things start to heat up. Whew, you might want to grab your popcorn for this one because it's going to get a little controversial. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the most highly, and I'm talking about the most highly requested video on the channel is here. What am I talking about? What am I referring to? Well, the past couple of weeks or so, we've taken a look at a bunch, probably like 4 to 5 different post-spring top 25 rankings, and in one of the videos, I was like, wait a minute. Instead of criticizing these rankings, I need to make my own. I can't speak for you, but for me, I hate people who complain in this life. I'm not a complainer. I don't sit around with people that complain. I'm a problem solver. So I finally came to my senses and said, you know what? Let's improve and solve this problem and create the new and improved top 25 post-spring rankings. I also saw some people in the comment section saying, yo, Matt, you need to come out with your own rankings after every single week of the season, and let me know in the comment section if you guys want to see that as well. The premise of this video is fairly simple. I don't know how to dumb it down anymore. I'm going to give you my top 25 rankings. It may be a long one because I am going to try to justify and clarify why I got team ranked at every position, so you might want to strap in, get you a nice little snack, do all that nice stuff. As always, if you're new to the channel and you like college football content and videos like this, consider joining our amazing community. By the way, shout out to everybody that is already subscribed. All right, Matt, blah, 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 should have grabbed up. Now, without further ado, let's get on to it. Whew. Okay, first things first, I do want to say this. Hope all of you had a great and fabulous Memorial Day weekend. I enjoyed mine. It was pretty good, had some nice weather, and also, what about Game 7 last night? Look, I know we're a college football channel, and, you know, we talk about college basketball, NFL a little bit, but if you didn't watch that Game 7 last night, you missed a good one. I don't care too much to watch the NBA during the regular season, but playoff basketball, there's just something about it. It was an awesome game. I'm so happy for the Heat and Jimmy Butler. That's who I was going for. We're not here to talk about that, though. Let's get into these rankings. I say we just get straight into it. Not going to waste your time, and you know how this goes. We're going to start with 25 and work our way up. Before we even get going, let me make this clear. I spent numerous hours making this list, doing a lot of research, putting each team where I did, and I'm pretty happy and content with it. And I firmly believe at this point in time, it's the only legit and real list out there. And the reason I say that is because all these other lists, they just throw a list out there. They don't give you a reason for why they got a team ranked at number 9 or 8. For me, though, I am going to explain team by team why I got them ranked where they are. So without further ado, Matt, shut the crap up. Let's really get into it. Starting it out hot. At number 25, we get the Tulane Green Wave. Anytime you do a list, I think the trickiest part about the list isn't 1 through 10. It's normally 25 through 10 or 25 through 15. Because it's hard to really separate your teams 25 through 15. All of them, they probably could beat each other. Whereas your number 8 team more than likely couldn't beat your number 1 team. You see what I'm saying? But I'm really comfortable with Tulane at 25. You know, not too high, not extremely low. Also giving them some credit and respect for upsetting USC last year. They're never going to be a top 10 team, but I do think they deserve to be put at 25, and we're going to leave it at that. Solid ball club that's going to win the games they're supposed to win, and maybe, just a maybe, they can pull off a big-time upset. I still can't believe they upset USC. That ending of the game, it was amazing. At number 24 on our list, we got the UCLA Bruins. I found this one really tricky because UCLA, they're not a great team, but they also have a lot of potential. And when I say they have a lot of potential, I'm referring to their 5-star quarterback who just came in, and he goes by the name of Dante. Dante Moore was a really good high school quarterback, and he's currently battling it out for their starting spot. UCLA was a very solid team last year. I thought at times they underperformed and they were underwhelming, but this year, maybe they can over-exceed expectations. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens there. At number 23, we're already getting controversial. We got the Oklahoma Sooners. I struggled with this one, I really did, because you can make a great case and a legit case and argument that Oklahoma shouldn't even be ranked inside the top 35. They finished last year 6-7. They were a disappointment to say the least, and nobody critiqued them more than me. Nobody laughed at and said Brent Venables was a bigger disappointment than me, myself, and I. And the main reason for that is because heading into the season, I said, and I'm on the record saying this, that Brent Venables, he was the best hire in the offseason, and he made me look stupid. This guy was a defensive coach, and Oklahoma had one of the worst defenses in the country last year. Make it make sense. So with that being said, I know what you're sitting there saying. Okay, Matt, you're saying all these bad things about him. Well, how do you got him in the top 25? My reasoning for that is fairly simple. They're coming off of a top 5 recruiting class. They also have their starting quarterback Dylan Gabriel coming back, and their defense has already improved. But the reason I'm putting them at 23, if you want me to be honest, is just because all the talent coming in. I think think they got a lot of talent, and I think Brent Venables is a good coach. He's just got to go out there and prove it. Last year, it was disappointing, but it was his first year. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. 23 is a perfect spot for Oklahoma. Not too high, maybe too high to some people, but for me, I like it. You're not going to keep this Oklahoma program down for long. I believe that. I think next year they could potentially win up to 10 games. At number 22 on our list, we got another Big 12 team. Well, Oklahoma's about to join the SEC, but for now, another Big 12 team. We got Texas Tech. Ah, yes, good old Texas Tech. Are they going to be as talented as Oklahoma or Texas? No, but they always find a way to beat those teams somehow. Every now and then when you least expect it, Texas Tech, they always beat a team they shouldn't. High-powered offense, they're never going to be a great team, but they're always going to be a good team. I think the greatest way to explain Texas Tech is they're a team that nobody wants to play. Because the weird thing about Tech is, if you catch them on a good day, you probably ain't even got a shot to beat them. The reason I laugh at it is because they're such a tricky team to evaluate. You can make an argument and say, hey, Texas Tech, they could go 3-9, and I'd believe you. But you could also make an argument and say Texas Tech is going to go 9-3, and I'd believe you. They can lose to anybody, but at the same time, they can also beat anybody. And that's why I got them at 22. You do not want to play this team for that reason alone. Moving along here to our first Pac-12 team on our list, we got Oregon State. Ah, yes, the good old Fighting Beavers. I'm just joking, by the way. Is that actually what they're saying? It might be. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people actually realize this outside the Pac-12, but Oregon State last year went 10-3. To go along with that, this year, they picked up a guy that I think some of you may know, DJ Ugabadoogie from Clemson. Am I the biggest Ugabadoogie fan in the world? No, I'm not. But I also believe if he's inserted into the right offensive scheme with the right head coach, he could be pretty solid. Pairing up Uiagalelei with a team that's coming off a 10-win season, that's a recipe for success, at least in my humble opinion. I believe Oregon State, they can pull off an upset here or there. Pay attention to them. At number 20 on our list, we got our first SEC team, and that's no other than the Lane Train and Ole Miss. It doesn't matter how you break this down. I'm not going to sit up here and talk about this for the next 3 to 4 minutes. 20 is a perfect spot for Ole Miss. They're never going to be good enough to win a title, but they're always good enough to be a team that's ranked inside the top 8, top 9 to top 25, somewhere around that range. Ole Miss is a good team, and with Lane Kiffin calling the shots and run the show, you know dang well they're always going to be one of the best offensive teams in the country. It is also worth mentioning they have one of the craziest quarterback battles going on in the country. They got a 3-way battle between their the quarterback that played last year, Jackson Dart. He's battling it out with the kid who transferred from LSU and also the kid who transferred from Oklahoma State. What's his name? Oh, yeah, Spencer Sanders. If you had to ask me, all three of those guys, they're viable options. They also have their star running back coming back. Ole Miss, they're going to score points. The only question is, can their defense hold up? There's not too much to say there. If you've watched Ole Miss the past 3 to 4 years, it's pretty much going to be the same team, same year. They'll probably finish around 8-4, 9-3. But I will say this, one of my favorite parts about Ole Miss is their fans because they have realistic expectations. At least their fans know, hey, we're probably going to go 8-4, 9-3. None of their fans are sitting there going, oh yeah, we're going to go 11-1 and shock the world. I always enjoy Ole Miss fans because they're some of the best people out there. And also they have a beautiful campus. Oxford, Mississippi, man, it is nice. Right after the Lane Train at number 19 on my list, we got North Kakalaki. I'm going to be real, y'all. I got North Carolina on this list for one reason and one reason only. Drake May. Drake May is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and that offense, it can beat anybody. As much as I like to go on rants, tangents, and ramble all the time, y'all know this, I want to keep this one short and sweet. Drake May is the reason I got him at 19, period, the end. Let's get a move on. At number 18, we got the former second-place runner-up in the championship game, the TCU Horned Frogs. For those of y'all that don't know this, TCU is losing a lot. They lost 8 players to the NFL draft. I'm not going to say they were a one-hit wonder, but they lost a lot, and it's going to be hard to replenish all those weapons. But at the same time, I'm not going to disrespect them like everybody else. I am going to give them their respect. Putting them at 18 is a good spot just because, they made it to the championship game, guys. I don't care if you don't believe in this team, but you should at least somewhere on your list have them inside the top 25. I think they're going to be A-okay. They're losing a lot of pieces. They got to find a new quarterback, but they also got 2 transfers from Alabama. But hey, remember, nobody had TCU playing Georgia in a championship this time last year, so you never know what's going to happen. I will say this, though. They're not going back to the championship. No way. But all in all, I will be honest with all of you. The main reason I got them at 18, similar to 19 in North Carolina, is for one reason. I like Sonny Dykes. Nobody has done more or less than Sonny Dykes at TCU. What he did last year, it needs to be talked about more. He doesn't get enough credit and respect. What an unreal season. Moving along here to number 17 on our list. This is a fascinating team. We may make a separate video just talking about this team alone. we got South Kakalaki. Whew, man, oh man, they won me over last year. They did. When you're talking about a team that had the greatest 2-week run in the history of college football, look no farther than South Carolina. They didn't just beat Tennessee. They beat the brakes off of them. And then after that, they upset Clemson on their home field. I told you guys last year, I didn't believe in Shane Beamer. I thought South Carolina was just going to be an average program, and he couldn't turn them around, and he made me eat my words. I'm on the hype train. If you're not looking out for a South Carolina team, I don't know what to tell you. They woke you up last year. Let me explain something to y'all. Upsetting 2 teams in back-to-back weeks, that's not a fluke. You can write off one game as a fluke, but back-to-back games, no. Can't do it. South Carolina's the real deal. Also worth mentioning, good old Spencer Rattler, he's coming back for his 7th year. The Rattler is back. Now, do I think Spencer Rattler is some Heisman contending quarterback? No, but he's a good quarterback to have. I like old Rattler. Maybe putting South Carolina at 17, that's a little bit too low, but I'm content with that for now. Moving along here up on our list at number 16, we got another Big 12 team. We got no other than K-State. I like K-State. I mean, is it a top 25 list without Kansas State? I don't think so. Do they have the talent to compete with a team like Alabama or Georgia? Absolutely not. We saw that firsthand last year. The difference with Kansas State and Alabama and Georgia is Kansas State, they have a bunch of 3-star players. Alabama and Georgia, they have a bunch of 4- and 5-star players. And at the end of the day, unless it's some miraculous upset, 9 times out of 10, a team like K-State is going to get blown out by Alabama. That's just how things go. But, and I have a big but, the great thing about K-State is they get the most out of their 3-star recruits. K-State's coming off of a good year, and with the Big 12 not necessarily being too great, too powerful, I expect them to do the same thing. But I say let's get a move on to number 15 on our list, and oh good gosh. We got Notre Dame. Yes, I know, trust me. I did not want to put them on their list. No, yes, I know. I'm not going to go on a rant and tangent, but y'all know how I feel about good old Notre Dame. Overrated, should be banned from the college football playoff, and should also be banned from being ranked inside the top 10. You wouldn't put them at number 11, that's cool, but they can't go higher than that. I will say this, though, they got a great recruiting class coming in, and they finished last year on a strong note. I expect Notre Dame to be good, but it's so hard to gauge them just because they don't play in a conference. They only play about 1-2 big-time games a year, and more times than not, they wet the bed and go 10-2, 11-1, and sneak into the playoff, and then they get just completely destroyed again. The endless cycle of Notre Dame. If you're a college football fan, you know how it goes. They get overhyped at the beginning of the year, they lose one game, run the table, go 11-1, make the playoff, and get destroyed. Over and over and over and over. And nothing's going to change. Notre Dame will never, and let me repeat this, they will never win another college football championship ever again. It's not going to happen. It will never happen. Recruits don't want to go to Notre Dame. 1, because they have too much pride and too big of an ego to pay these kids millions of dollars, and you got to do it nowadays with the NIL. And 2, it's cold. If you think that doesn't matter, you're sadly mistaken. It doesn't matter when you're like Ohio State and you're willing to pay, but you can't do both. If it's going to be cold up there and you're not willing to pay, no, you just can't do that. You may always have a top 10 recruiting class, but you're never going to get a top 2 or top 3 recruiting class, never. And if you don't have the talent like a Georgia, Alabama, or an Ohio State, you'll never be able to beat them. I know it sounds like I hate Notre Dame. I really don't. It's just I'm tired of everybody hyping them up the past 10 years. That's it. When is everybody going to come to the reality that Notre Dame is the most overhyped program of all time? They've done nothing the past 10 years and get overhyped every single year. Stop ranking them inside the top 10 in the preseason polls. Put them at 15 or 20 where they belong. That's good. Let me stop there before I continue to rant. We got a long way to go. At number 14 on my list, I got the Washington Huskies. I'm not the biggest Michael Penix Jr. fan in the world. I'm not on the bandwagon. I'm not on the hype train, but he's a really good player, I'll say that. He's good, and he's also a key reason why I got Washington at 14, but I also like their team as an entire unit. Seems like Washington's got a little something brewing there. Speaking of Washington, which is in the Pac-12, that leads me into number 13 perfectly. I got Oregon. When it comes to the perfect spot for a team, I think putting Oregon at 13, it doesn't get any better than that. It's not too high, it's not too low, perfect spot. Oregon can't and they won't compete for a championship. We saw what happened last year when they played Georgia. If they played again first game of the year this year, the same thing would happen. They'd get blown out by 40. Oregon just doesn't have the guys, and look, I don't care that Bo Picks, he's coming back. Dude, he's so inconsistent. The thing with Bo Picks is he did the same thing at Auburn. Yeah, he's going to look good against Chattanooga State Water Aquarium Community College, but when he plays Georgia, when he plays Alabama or another big-time team, he's going with the bed. In the big-time games, he's not very consistent. You can mark it down. He'll probably lead Oregon to a 10-2 or 11-1 record. But as far as it goes for Oregon actually competing for a championship, no. At number 12 on our list, a team that is very controversial in their ranking system, I got Texas. I love this Texas team for multiple reasons, but the main reason is because of old Quinn Ewers. Mama, there goes that man. I can't get enough of him. I don't know if it's the throwing motion. There's just something about him. He's so calm, cool, and collected. He never bats an eye. The moment doesn't look too big for him. It just looks like he's ready to get done playing football so he can go hunt and fish. That's how I view Quinn Ewers. It just looks like he's ready to get the game over so he can go do something else. The moment's never too big for this kid, and that's why he's been so successful. Texas has also surrounded him with a ton of talent. Xavier Worthy, his star wide receiver, he is coming back. And I think Steve Sarkisian, this is the year where he either makes us believe in him or he makes us or proves to us that he's not that great of a head coach. This is the make or break year. Last year, everybody, that was like a trial run, a free 30-day trial. Nobody was taking the season too serious. It was Quinn Ewers' first year there, and same thing for Steve Sarkisian. But this year, it's put up or shut up. It's going to be very interesting to see how Texas foes off in some of these big-time matchups, because if you lose to TCU again, yeah, they're going to be calling for Sarkisian's job. They have a lot of talent, but can they get over that 8-4, 9-3 hump? Can you win 10 games? Guess we'll have to wait and see. At number 11 on our list, we got good old Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. Clemson. Well, I'll say this. You're lucky you're in the ACC. We saw what happened last year when y'all played SEC schools, Tennessee and South Carolina. I tried telling you guys. I said it on the channel 2 years ago. If Clemson was in the SEC, they go 8-4, 9-3 every single season. But since they're in the new worst conference in the Power 5, but since they're in the crappy and sucky ACC, they go 11-1, 12-0. You are lucky, man. You are lucky. Now, I know Clemson, they've been disappointing the past couple of years, but you can't count them out. I like their quarterback, Clay Klubnik, got a ton of talent, ton of potential, and their defense, it's always going to show up. As shaky as Clemson's offense has been the past couple of years, you do got to remember that Dabo Swinney is a two-time champion. As much as a dork that I think Dabo Swinney is, you still got to respect the man. And for that right there, that's why I'm going to put Clemson at 11. That's a sound spot. But now finally, getting into the top 10, here's where things start to heat up. Whew, you might want to grab your popcorn for this one because it's going to get a little controversial. At number 10 on our list, we're opening up with a Pac-12 school. We got USC. Look, man, I'm not going to sit up here and give you some rant. You know why I got USC at number 10. Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley. Offensive mastermind. Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy. The offense is going to average 50 points per game. It's the defense I can't count on. USC is softer than that one-ply toilet paper that my finger used to go through when I was in the middle school bathroom. If it wasn't for USC's softness, I don't even care that they give up points on defense. It's that they're soft. I'd have them at number 6 or 5. But until y'all prove to me that y'all want to play football and not two-hand touch, I'm putting you at number 10, and you're lucky for that. Speaking of soft, let's go with the highest ranked Pac-12 team I got on the list, and the reason I got them higher than USC is because they proved to me that USC is soft. I got Utah. Here's the only thing I'm going to say about your list. If you have USC ranked ahead of Utah, your list, it isn't valid and it doesn't count. There's no way you can even argue with me for a second that USC deserves to be ranked ahead of Utah after watching what happened last year. I'm just going to assume if you have USC over Utah in your preseason rankings or post-spring rankings, whatever you want to call it, you didn't watch the game. Utah didn't just beat them, they made them look like a JV football team. Utah wasn't better than USC, they just pushed them around. That single game alone showed me that I can't have USC high on any of my lists going forward. Until they prove to me they want to be physical, I'm putting them at 10. 10 ain't bad, though. It ain't bad. Going hand in hand, though, at Utah at number 9. Look, they got the quarterback coming back. They're one of the most physical teams in the Pac-12. Physical teams, they win more times than not. That's why I got Utah at 9. Plain and simple. Let's not overcomplicate it. At number 8, we got an ACC team. I got the Florida State Seminoles. Ooh, I know, kind of low compared to some other rankings out there, but I don't understand how people have Florida State inside the top 5 or even 6. What are you basing that off of? Florida State hasn't done nothing to deserve to be ranked inside the top 5. I'm not on the Florida State hype train. I am not. They're going to have to prove something to me in that week 1 matchup against LSU. Speaking of LSU, we'll get to that in just a second. Obviously, you can figure out they're going to be ranked higher than Florida State, at least on my list. At number 7 on my list, we got a team that's laying low under the radar, and I think they like it. I got Penn State. Kind of weird because Penn State's the 3rd best team in their conference. conference, but they're the 7th best team in the country. That just goes to show you how top-heavy the Big Ten is and how great their best 3 teams are. Penn State is Penn State. They're going to have wishy-washy quarterback play, defense. They're going to be physical. Offense, they're going to be ground and pounding it. It's the same old Penn State. It's James Franklin, guys. Come on, nothing has changed. They're a sound team that can't get over the hump of trying to beat Michigan and Ohio State. And when I say get over the hump for them, let me make this clear. Yeah, they've beat those teams, but I mean beating them on a regular basis, beating them 1 every 3 years. And that's the only thing that held Penn State back last year. You couldn't beat Michigan and you couldn't beat Ohio State. Man, oh man, that is a tough division to be in, but it is what it is. You got to play the teams you got to play. I like Penn State, though, because they are a physical team. And oh yeah, by the way, they got one of the best running backs. I believe last year, yeah, he was a true freshman. That guy was a stud. I remember when he lit Auburn up, but let's get a move on to number 6 on my list. I got LSU. To say that LSU last year had a polarizing season, that'd be an understatement. Started out in a terrible way, had the heartbreaking loss to Florida State on extra point. Then you run off about 4 in a row. Then you get humiliated by Tennessee at home by 30 points. Then you win about 5 or 6 more in a row. And then you go on a 2-game losing streak, lose to A&M and Georgia. But then you crush Purdue in a bowl game by 60 points. LSU fans, how were y'all feeling last year? I mean, all the ups and downs, I hate that. It gets to me. As a fan, here's how I view it. If we're going to suck, can we just suck? I don't want to be really good, get my hopes up, then disappoint me, then good, then bad, then, just go up and down, up and down. I hate that. But still, LSU last year, they overexceeded expectations. Beating Alabama in your first year at Brian Kelly, that is a heck of a sign. And I tried telling people when LSU hired Brian Kelly, everybody's like, oh, well, is this even going to be a good hire? Brian Kelly could never beat Alabama at Notre Dame. He could never compete with the big boys. Dude, it's the same thing I already stated with Notre Dame. It wasn't Brian Kelly's fault. He was actually overexceeding at Notre Dame. The problem with Notre Dame is they don't have the talent, but LSU does. So what happens? You give Kelly the talent to compete with Nick Saban, he beats him in year 1. What about that? It proved my point perfectly. That's all it was. It wasn't Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. He wasn't the problem. It was the talent. And if you think otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. You're just an idiot. But anyways, getting on track here. Yeah, they finished a year 10-4. But who cares? It was a trial season. You beat Alabama in year 1. Very similar situation to Texas. Nobody was expecting too much out of Brian Kelly and Steve Sarkisian in year 1. Year 2, the one coming up, is the one that really matters. I think Brian Kelly, with him having a year under his belt, his starting quarterback, Jaden Daniels, coming back, they got a shot to be really good. I mean, you're talking about a team that potentially could make it to a championship game. I'm not talking about SEC championship. I'm talking about the national championship. LSU can beat anybody on any given Saturday, and that is a cold, hard fact. I got him at number 6 because of this. LSU has a good defense and a good offense. And that's going to be your difference from your teams in the top 6 to 7 from your teams to, 8 to 25. A lot of your teams ranked outside the top 10, they're just good at one thing. But your teams ranked inside the top 6, 7, 8, they're good at multiple different things. That's the difference. And I'm going to address why I got LSU ranked ahead of Florida State. Because if they played tomorrow, I'd pick LSU to win the game. So that's why I got LSU ranked higher than Florida State. Period. The end. But now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the top 5. At number 5 on my top 25 post-spring rankings list, I got the Tennessee Volunteers. Whoa, Matt. What we doing, baby? Tennessee at 5? What are you on, man? I know, right? But hear me out. You see, when all these other people make their top 25 lists, they like to put big-time name. Well, Tennessee is a big-time name brand, but you get what I'm saying. They just like to put names up there. They like to put teams that, are normally inside the top 5, top 10. So they don't put Tennessee up there. But for me, when I make my list, you know what I like to go off of? Cold, hard facts. I don't care if your name is Chattanooga State Water Aquarium Community College. If I think you're a top 5 team, you're a top 5 team. Plain and simple. Now, with that being said, let me justify putting Tennessee at 5. Well, number 1, they will average 50 points per game on offense next year. You can mark that down. Nobody will stop this Tennessee offense. You just hope to contain it. Now, I know my Georgia fans, you run to the comment section and listen, Georgia fans. You are the exception. And even at that, Georgia, you don't even want to stop Tennessee's offense. You just want to contain it. Let's just say this. Everybody outside of Georgia, they can't stop Tennessee. And I know what some people may try to say, well, oh, Matt, what if Joe Milton, he doesn't live up to the hype? Well, here's the thing about this nobody's bringing up. I personally believe that Nico Iamaleava, the freshman quarterback they have, the 5-star recruit, he's better than Joe Milton, but that's just my opinion. So even if Joe Milton doesn't live up to the hype, they can replace him just like that. I'm also going to remind some people, because I see a lot of people, they have LSU over Tennessee on their list, and that doesn't make sense to me because last year, Tennessee blew out and embarrassed LSU on their home field by 30-plus points. And I'm not basing this ranking list off of last year, but they did play, so it does account for something. It wasn't too long ago. It's not like LSU and Tennessee only 8 months apart are going to be two entirely different ball clubs. You see what I'm saying? But here's what actually excites me about this Tennessee team. A lot of people don't even know this, and I wouldn't expect most people to know this, but Josh Heupel has had a lot of depth problems. When Josh Heupel took over that Tennessee job a couple of years ago, they had like 40-something guys leave. They didn't have a lot of depth. And even last year, they had no depth whatsoever on the defensive side of the ball. And it didn't affect them early in the season, but as you notice, the weeks continue to go on and on and on. Later in the year, it caught up to them. That's all that happened with Tennessee. They lacked depth, and it caught up to them. It's bound to happen. Same thing in basketball. Yeah, everybody's going to have their legs under them in the first, second, and even the third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, that's when you're going to know, okay, who was really training and working hard in the offseason. That's when you're going to know who's got the highest stamina. Tennessee just ran out of stamina. They ran out of gas. But by the time the season runs around, Josh Heupel will finally, in the first year ever that he's been there, have depth at every single position. He's figured out the offensive side of the ball, and a lot of people don't know this as well, but Tennessee on defense has one of the best rushing defenses in the country. So for Tennessee, the only part of the game they need to figure out is their passing defense, because it is quite awful. I don't see Tennessee losing many games next year. I really don't. I have a hard time seeing it. And if they played tomorrow, I'd have Tennessee beating LSU. So, I mean, it's the same with all these teams. If I got a team ranked to have one another, I'd have that team beating them. I would love to talk about them some more, but we got to get a move on to our fourth best team on my list, and I got the Ohio State. Why do I have Ohio State at number 4? Well, it's relatively simple. Until you can win the game, little bro. That's what I'm going to start calling Ohio State, little bro. Until you can beat Big Brother, I'm not ranking you ahead of them. I'm not. I'm also not going to give y'all the respect that y'all want until you can beat Big Brother. Ryan Day is a fraud, and Ohio State fans, I'm going to explain something to you, and I need you to listen up. The worst case scenario last year was y'all actually making it to the playoff and competing against Georgia. Because here's what happened. Your athletic director looked at that and was like, well, wait a minute. We almost beat the national champion. Maybe we don't need to fire Ryan Day. Maybe we should keep him around another year or two. Even though you lost to Georgia, what it did was it has bought Ryan Day more time, which is a bad thing because he's a fraud. He's the biggest fraud in college football. As long as he's coaching at Ohio State, they will never, and let me repeat this, they will never win a national championship. He can't get over the hump. He can't win the big games. And here's the reason I call him a fraud. That Ohio State team last year, and even the year before, it was one of the most talented teams in the country. You could argue that last year Ohio State had a more talented team than Georgia. I'm not saying they were more talented than Georgia, but you could argue it, especially on the offensive side of the ball. With all the talent Ohio State has had on offense the past couple of years, you mean to tell me you can't win at least one championship? Come on, man. And even the championship y'all made it to, you got blown out by Alabama. They're frauds. They can't win the big game. Let me explain something to you as well. Ohio State ended the year on a 2-game losing streak. I think Ohio State is exceptionally talented. The only thing that's holding them back is they need a new head coach. The game that really stuck out to me the most last year was against Northwestern. I don't know if many of you even watched that game or even cared to watch it, but I'll give you a quick rundown. It was raining a lot. It was like 45-mile-per-hour winds, and Northwestern was 1-9. They were terrible. Last year, they won one game, and it was against Nebraska. Northwestern was easily one of the worst teams in the country, and Ohio State barely beat them. And I remember tweeting about it, and Ohio State fans were like, oh, Matt, you don't understand. It's like 45-mile-per-hour winds. That's why C.J. Stroud and the offense can't get going. No, listen up, dummy. That's the problem with this. Yes, it was raining. Yes, it was 45-mile-per-hour winds. Run the ball every single play. But yet, for some odd reason, Ryan Day is trying to throw the ball. That just blew my mind. Here's the bottom line. If you are not confident in your team with all the 5-star offensive linemen, 5-star running backs, that you can't hand the ball off on every single play and just run over North freaking Western, You shouldn't be coaching. That's what did it for me. Plain and simple. Ohio State, you probably should be number 2 on my list, but just because you're head coach, you're number 4. Moving along here, number 3 on my list, I got the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm so confident with this, it doesn't even need me to go over it or explain it, but I will briefly. Number 3 is a perfect spot. Alabama, they should never be ranked outside the top 5. They're coming off, they have, let me explain this to some of y'all. They have the best recruiting class of all time coming in. Nobody feels worse about the quarterback situation than me, myself, and I. I've already explained that. But it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback for Alabama, they're going to win 10 games. Mark it down. Alabama has so much talent, it's not even funny, and Nick Saban and talent, it goes hand in hand. The difference with Nick Saban than old fraud Ryan Day is Saban knows how to develop talent. Saban knows what to do when he gets the talent. He knows how to give him the ball. That's a different conversation for a different day. But Alabama at 3, perfect. I'll elaborate on that in just a second. At number 2 on my list, I got Michigan. Ah, yes, I know. Now, if you've been watching the channel the past, not just last year, but the past 2 years, I've said outside of Notre Dame, Michigan has been the most overrated team in the country, and I believe that. But just like with anything in life, things change. Michigan is no longer an overrated team, at least for next year. After next year, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's a video for next year. Heading into this year, with Michigan, what's there not to like? Why wouldn't you rank them at number 2? Their star quarterback, an extremely talented quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, he's coming back, and I'm expecting him to have a breakout season. Look really comfortable, really confident. There's no more looking over my shoulder to get benched. There's none of that. No, he's going to take over. He's going to be fully confident, ready to go. I believe in J.J. McCarthy. I really do. It's a shame they lost to TCU, but I'm not here to talk about that. Reason number 2, I love Michigan at number 2. You see what I did there? Is a running back room. Blake Corum and also Dylan Edwards. He's coming back. I said Dylan Edwards is coming back. Of course he's coming back. I meant Blake Corum. Outstanding running backs. Number 3, they have one of the best defenses in the country. You can always count on them. Number 4, Michigan is a physical, and I mean a physical team. They have literally bullied Ohio State. They've pushed Ohio State around the past 2 years. But another reason I really am starting to like this Michigan team is because of J.J. McCarthy and the running backs, but they're starting to transform into not an offensive team because they're really a defensive team, but their offense is transforming into the new ways. And when I say new ways, that was a bad way to explain it. I mean, they're starting to, catch on with the modern day and trend of, throwing the ball a little bit more. They're starting to take a little more deep shots, but they only do it when they got to. The thing with Michigan is they are going to ground and pound you when you least expect it. J.J. McCarthy is going to drop back like he did against Ohio State and have 3 passes of over 60 yards. I like this Michigan team because they remind me a lot of Alabama when they had A.J. McCarron. I think J.J. McCarthy and A.J. McCarron are very similar quarterbacks. They're game managers who can make the big-time throws. And to put the cherry on top of things, what I love most about this Michigan team is their leader, Jim Harbaugh. He knows what he's doing, he's a proven winner, and he knows the game. I can't say the same for old fraud Ryan Day. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he don't know the game. I think I've praised Michigan enough. With all that being said, the number 1 team on this list, guess who? I got Georgia. Ah, yes, good old Georgia. Do you need me to explain this? No, but you probably want to hear my 2 cents, or maybe you don't, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. Well, my friends, it's Georgia. This Georgia team this year could possibly be better than last year's team, and yeah, I know that's some bold words, but I believe it. Remember last year the talk going on? Oh man, Georgia, how are they going to replace all those guys? They lost 5 guys on defense to the first round. What are they going to do? And oh yeah, this year, or the previous year, my bad, all they did was pretty much the same thing, if not better. The Georgia team that just won the title, they weren't even supposed to be that great, and they were probably better than the 2021 Georgia team. Could be controversial, but who cares? It's a great argument to have if you're a Georgia fan. Hey, which one of our teams was better? 2021 champion Georgia or 2022 champion Georgia? You see what I'm saying? Great argument to have, but I don't see this Georgia team changing too much. They're the best defense in the country, and it's not even close. Their offense is already looking better than last year's. Their quarterback room, it's flawless. I mean, you got Carson Beck, who looked incredible in the spring game. Brock Vandagriff is a great backup to have. And then you got Raiola coming in the next couple of years. I would love to talk and hype this Georgia team up, but there's nothing to say. Nothing new is going to happen. They're a defensive powerhouse and monster that can beat you in multiple different ways. Have you guys seen the win total projections for some of these teams? Georgia's win total projection, this is in the regular season alone, is 11.5, 11.5. That is the highest I have ever seen. I don't even know if Alabama's even had it that high before. Maybe they have, I can't remember. 11.5 wins. That means if you bet the over on that bet, Georgia would have to go undefeated. And here's the crazy part about that. I don't even see them losing a game. The over-under on the regular season win total is 11.5 games. Am I crazy for thinking that you'd be crazy for betting the under on that? I mean, who's going to beat them? The only team that I actually think can beat Georgia is either Michigan or Alabama, and they don't play them in the regular season. I'm going to end it off there. This video's already been extremely long. That is my top 25 list. Let me know your thoughts down below, but roll with it.